When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite. Obey your thirst.
But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. One only remembers to turn on the light.
It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends.
The ones that love us never really leave us.
Working hard is important, but there's something that matters: believing in yourself. If they can do it, why not us?
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. Today we are covering Act 3, Scenes 10 through 13 of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. We have Elizabeth with us.
Hi everyone.
And we have a bunch of comments to get to. We'll start off with AV's comment from Act 3, Scenes 3 through 5. AV says, "Hi, here's a thought on the ending of Deathly Hallows. A little late. The idea of the schoolhouse has always seemed bizarre. People are different and will always form different groups. But why initially make those differences? My alternate ending would be that when Voldy lights the Sorting Hat on fire while on Neville, that destroys the hat. And then from then on, it's all one school without any divisions."
I do like the first half of AV's comment, the idea that, yeah, separating people by their differences as opposed to trying to unite them by their commonalities seems a little odd. I could see maybe waiting until the second year to sort, so that the first year it's just this big bonding experience and everyone discovers the castle for themselves and stuff. I think the second half of the comment is interesting because, yes, the Sorting Hat, when it is put on fire, you would presume that it has been destroyed or maybe beyond magical repair. I find it a little ironic since the Sorting Hat was the one in the first place that was telling the entire school we need to unite instead of divide if we're going to stand up against the evils that are trying to tear us down. I could see them going forward without any type of sorting, but at the same time, I do like being a Ravenclaw.
I like your idea of having all of the students get to Hogwarts and experiencing Hogwarts and experiencing who they are as witches and wizards, and then sorting them, like maybe second year or maybe fourth year when they're starting to mature a little bit more and become really who they are.
It would protect them against the kind of prejudices that they might be coming into the school with. Like, I mean, we saw Malfoy being like, I'm a Slytherin and that's my identity. And if he has to wait a few years before he's given that identity or an alternative identity, he could be making friends with anybody regardless of what house they would be eventually in.
I wonder, because Dumbledore has also posed that idea of maybe we sort too soon. Mm-hmm. And I wonder what his philosophy would be on it. Like, what age would he want to do the sorting upon further reflection?
Your graduating day.
Maybe. Obviously, no one is who they are for the rest of their lives at 11.
Right.
You know, obviously you grow and change quite a bit through the years of 11 through 17. And you also, for the record, you grow a lot after 17, too. Uh-huh. So, the sorting happening right at the age of 11 seems a bit early.
I get the idea of having some kind of identity to help you, like, I don't know, navigate your school years, and it gives you that camaraderie and all that. But it does seem to divide in ways that maybe the founders didn't intend upon.
Well, they certainly give an out to the idea of sorting, with the hat being so aggressively damaged at the Battle of Hogwarts. They give you an out to be like, hey, here's where we stop sorting and we form Hogwarts a new way going forward. I don't know which way they're currently using for sorting now, given, again, the assumption is that the hat is either beyond magical repair, like you said, or just altogether destroyed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how they're still sorting students. It's unclear. But to your point about the Founding Fathers, I wonder if they established the sorting, or they established their student body a certain way. And then the further we got from the Founding Fathers being so instrumental in the day-to-day at Hogwarts, whether that be 30, 40 years or a century or 2 centuries after they're already gone, I imagine their ideals get distorted.
Yeah.
The further you get away from the actual person's ideas, it becomes distorted and shaped to however that current headmaster, headmistress, that current just general wizarding world ideology becomes. And I wonder how distorted it got.
That makes me think of AI, like an AI that continues to learn based on the feedback it's given, and how it can be corrupted by human input into what we define as a Gryffindor, what we define as a Slytherin or whatever, and it becomes more polarized in that way.
Do you think the founders would look at present-day Hogwarts and be like, oh, what are we doing? Or do you think they'd be like, did anybody listen to the hat at the beginning of the year? Like, the hat was on point. Like, we made the hat pretty well, and no one's listening to the message.
I could see it as a system that in theory works well, but without constant check can go a little too far and then lead to divisions. And I think that happens a lot with systems.
It's an interesting kind of debate. I love the house debate.
I love the house hat because I love the songs it makes.
I also love the different iterations of house debates that we have.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
So, thank you, AV, for the comment. We now get to a comment from Abigail, who leaves a comment on Deathly Hallows, Chapter 21, The Tale of the Three Brothers. Abigail says, the veil idea makes so much sense. That is my new headcanon. I am a huge fan of Luna, so love that conversation. I personally ship her with Draco and Harry and Ginny all the way, except in the movies. Then it is Hermione.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, the veil idea, that had come up when we were reading The Tale of the Three Brothers, when the second brother talks about recalling his dead fiance and how she seemed to be separated from him from a veil, which immediately made us think about the room in the Ministry of Magic in the Department of Mysteries that had the veil that Sirius went through. We had talked at the time about how maybe that was the original veil that Death created, so maybe the Ministry was built around that specific spot, so it's like more evidence that the Tale of the Three Brothers is legitimately a real thing. In terms of Luna with Draco, I think that's interesting. I could see her tampering down his rigid way of looking at the world. I think he would benefit from Luna's version of that. I think she could help him have more fun with seeing things. So I don't hate that one. Harry and Ginny in the movies, yeah, not the best. No offense to any of the actors. I just don't think the chemistry was there. It was more present with Harry and Hermione. So I totally understand that shipping. But I agree, in the books, it's Harry and Ginny all the way.
I love our veil conversation that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really interesting thought to have. And the more and more I consider it, the more and more I kind of believe in it. As far as the ships go, yes, Luna and Draco would be an interesting one for sure. There's a fan fiction out there for somebody, I'm sure. I'm sure it's probably been done multiple times.
Uh-huh.
As for Harry and Ginny, yep, absolutely, that makes sense. Although I was always a Harry Hermione guy, personally. Yeah, the movies, the chemistry was just not there.
No.
And like the tying the shoes scene when Ginny there's like this flirty scene in the burrow, and they're very close to each other, and then she's like, "Oh, your shoes are untied," and then she goes to tie them, and I'm like, "What are we doing?"
The most romantic of gestures.
This is weird. This just comes off as weird.
I get that it's hard to pick an actor or actress and judge their chemistry when they're children, but yeah, it definitely was not there.
Now, the chemistry between Daniel and Emma, I think, was genuine, even though I know they are like brother sister. Like,
and I think that's
literally.
part of it. I think it's the friendship is so deep that it came across as like we care about each other.
And I know a lot of people dislike the scene in the movie, but the scene of Harry and Hermione in the tent while camping without Ron, and they have this like whole dance scene that obviously doesn't happen in the books. And for those people that are big Harry, Ginny, Ron, Hermione people, hate it and despise it. What it is, though, is a nod to the fact that, one, a lot of people do like Harry and Hermione together, and two, Daniel and Emma did have chemistry, and a lot of people did see it. And it's a nod to be like, hey, maybe in this, in a different timeline, in a different world, or different set of circumstances, maybe this is a thing.
And 3, for the sake of plot, trying to argue that while Ron is gone, it's not like we're going to just sit in despair the whole time. We're going to try to get our way through it and have a little bit of hope.
Yeah. Thank you, Abigail, for the comment. Now, we got a couple of comments from NC.
Yay!
So, the first comment is from Act 3, Scenes 3 through 5. NC says, how did Amos find out that Cedric is a Death Eater? I feel like that's one of the things that would be kept quiet and not shouted out to the world. I'm a Death Eater. But at the same time, if the Death Eater position became the new Auror, then maybe it would be a good reason for Amos to find out.
Yeah, I think this came after us theorizing what drove Cedric into becoming a Death Eater. Because we had talked about if Amos saw Cedric fail so tremendously at the tasks that he would maybe be ashamed of him and make that very clear to Cedric and push him to the dark side of the Force, if you will. I could see, though, like NC is saying, if the position of Death Eater is the new Auror role and Cedric is one of those, then it would be something he would have to tell his father and be like, I got a new job promotion. I'm a Death Eater. Woo! I don't think that he necessarily did get the tattoo, though. I think we had talked about, the levels of ranking within the Death Eaters. But it would be interesting to know how Amos feels about his son being a Death Eater when he himself had worked in the Ministry against that group during the Wizarding Wars.
It would be interesting to find out if Cedric did have the actual Dark Mark, because most of those Death Eaters, like true Death Eaters, not the Battle of Hogwarts Death Eaters, where literally every individual there was labeled as a Death Eater, which is ridiculous.
And fighting against their will sometimes.
Death Eaters, I think, are a term reserved for the more inner circle around Voldy. I think they all have the Dark Mark. So most of those individuals were around him from the beginning.
Yeah.
Very few that we know of got the Dark Mark later, like that second generation Death Eater.
I think we only know of Draco, yeah.
Yeah, Draco is the only one that pops into my head, obviously. Where would Cedric fit in? Would he rise the ranks that quickly, that aggressively, to where he actually gets the full like Death Eater label with the Dark Mark? I don't know. But to the actual point here, yeah, we had theorized if, because Draco is now running the law enforcement at the Ministry of Magic, would Death Eaters usurp Aurors as the new law enforcement? If so, are Death Eaters now more public? Are they more out in the open? I would tend to still say no. I think the actual Dark Mark Death Eaters are still the ones running everything, controlling everything, but not necessarily out in the open. I think Voldy still likes to operate in the shadows, even though he's ruling everything, because that's where fear breeds.
Yeah, I think the inner circle tattooed Death Eaters are the ones hiding in secret, and the ones who are not tattooed are kind of more like the secret police or whatever that's just out there, like, making a big deal of the fact that they get to bully people.
Like, I have no doubt that Yaxley might be low-key running the actual Ministry of Magic day-to-day. Or, Draco's obviously the head of magical law enforcement, and he's got a Dark Mark. Like, there are those positions, sure.
Yeah, but if you're important enough, you don't have to get your hands dirty.
Right. I'm sure there are still people with dark marks that do work in the shadows. I'm sure the Dollahoffs of the world, I'm sure the McNairs of the world were probably still doing some not so nice things. And they probably don't do that in the open as much. But anyway, hopefully we answered that question. We'll continue on with NC's next comment, which is from Act 3, Scenes 6 through 9. NC says, Ron with a mohawk or frosted tips. There's a minor difference. Also, Ron the idiot in this timeline kind of makes sense to me for some reason. I guess the movies do that to you.
I still picture the Ron with the frosted tips. I could see little spikes, not necessarily a full-blown mohawk, but a little hair gel.
Wouldn't it be great if Ron began the whole trend of frosted tips, though? Like, wouldn't that be great if he was spotted out in, like, London randomly, and then that became, like, the new Backstreet Boys NSYNC
I
style?
feel like that'd be such an unfortunate treatment of his red hair. I love red hair. I feel like making the tips
It would
of it
almost look like
blonde.
fire.
I mean, I guess if you did a little, like, orangey yellow kind of, but if it was just like bleach blonde, I'd be like, oh, Ron, what a look. No.
I just feel like that's not a rebellious enough look. I'm sorry. I just don't think
Full-blown
frosted
mohawk?
tips speak rebel to me.
When I picture mohawk, though, I'm picturing like the shaved sides and like 3 feet up spikes in the hair, and I couldn't see Ron doing that. He's supposed to be doing a low profile
I
here.
didn't say he looked good doing it. Hermione looked good. He does not. Anyway.
I like the comment, though, about how the movie Ron does that to you, because I do feel like they really did amplify Ron's inaptitude with anything in the movies, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I feel like the character of Ron has just declined. Like, in the actual series, it ramps up.
Yeah.
Like, he gets better and more competent. But then after the series ends, I feel like the movies took a hit to Ron's character.
They gave his good lines to Hermione.
And then this really does a disservice to Ron as a character. It hurts.
It's one of those cases where it's like, please, yes, also read the books, because there's such a difference between the movie version and the book version.
And now, NC's last comment, which was left on Act 2, Scenes 16 through 19. Thank you for following along on the podcast. So, NC says, what are you going to do after you finish Cursed Child? The companion books? The movie scripts? Love your podcast.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We appreciate, 1, that you're listening, and 2,
Commenting.
that you're commenting and engaging with us. We really do appreciate that. As for what we're doing next, we do have some of the companion books set up and ready to go. We're going to do Tales of Beetle the Bard. We're probably going to do Quidditch Through the Ages, and we're going to do Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the actual book.
Yeah.
And then, after that point, and don't hold me to this, 'cause this will be probably a little further out there, we're actually going to go through the polls very thoroughly and almost revisit the 7 books through our polls.
I know you hoped like Mallory would come back, or people we haven't heard as much from, and get their 2 cents on things.
Yeah, we haven't heard Molly in a while. We're going to reintroduce Mallory back. Mallory was on an episode.
Snape chapter.
Yeah, towards the end of Deathly Hallows. So we're going to get Mallory involved a little bit more. So, I mean, we have some ideas going forward, and hopefully that takes us into HBO series.
Which I'm excited for. I know there's a lot of thoughts out there. Some positive, some negative, some kind of in between. But I'm intrigued by a more book-specific version of Harry Potter.
Yeah, so we'll get into all of that a little bit later, but thank you for being interested in what we're doing going forward. So we hope to continue to get all of that engagement from our wonderful listeners. You can do so by commenting on our socials, which are Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can find all of our socials at Hogwarts-a-Pod. You can leave a comment on Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. You can also participate in the poll that's left on Spotify. As I just said, we're going to be going through those pretty thoroughly. So they're up for a long, long time. So if you've missed a poll in one of our previous episodes, or if you have yet to participate in those polls, go do it. We love to hear your thoughts. We love to see what you guys are thinking by participating in those polls. We got quite a few really, really interesting ones that we're very intrigued to see.
I'm still fascinated by the first one of how many people were re-listening or rereading versus first-time throughs.
Yeah, we have some good ones. So please participate in those. You can find it by just scrolling down on the episode on Spotify. We do post some of the polls on Instagram and Twitter from time to time, so just keep checking those socials.
Yeah.
We appreciate all the engagement that we get. Let's actually get into Harry Potter and the Cursed Child.
Yes, please.
And we'll start off with Act 3, Scene 10, Hogwarts, the headmistress's office. In this scene, Draco, Ginny, and Harry are standing behind Scorpius and Albus as McGonagall faces them very, very upset. And I just wanted to read, actually, McGonagall's recap of this whole thing, because it's
quite the recap.
It is actually perfection. McGonagall says, "So to be clear, you illegally jumped off the Hogwarts Express. You invaded and stole from the Ministry of Magic. You took it upon yourself to change time, whereupon you disappeared 2 people." Albus interjects, "I agree, it doesn't look good." McGonagall continues, "And your response to disappearing Hugo and Rose Granger Weasley was to go back in time again, and this time, instead of losing 2 people, you lost a huge number of people and killed your father. And in doing so, you resurrected the worst wizard the world has ever known and heralded in a new age of dark magic. You're correct, Mr. Potter. It doesn't sound good, does it? Are you aware of how stupid you've been?" And Scorpius clicks in, "Yes, Professor, yes."
She sums it up well.
Top-notch stuff from McGonagall on that one. I mean, really lovely. I think McGonagall honestly speaks for you, Elizabeth, because as they were forming this plan and as they were beginning to execute said plan, you were like, why are they doing this? This is stupid.
Yeah.
This is, like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
Well, McGonagall's essentially, why? This is the dumbest thing you possibly could have done. Did you not think for, 2 seconds about this?
Well, especially we know, and she reveals more further in the scene, there's a lot of weight behind her words. There's a lot of emotion because there's a lot of history there that as young teenagers who did not live during that time, they don't understand just how painful it is to think you undid everything that we did. That's bad. That's really, really bad.
Yeah, Harry begins to interject on this verbal assault that McGonagall is giving, but McGonagall cuts him off. Harry looks at Ginny, and Ginny's just shaking her head at Harry like, don't. Do not. McGonagall then continues on, and she delivers the punishment that will be given to these 2 students. And instead of expulsion, which, let's be real, expulsion is the minimum of their punishment.
They should be arrested.
They should kind of be arrested. Just a little bit.
You undid society. Yeah. That's a big crime.
Yeah, I think if we're actually being realistic, expulsion should be the least of their worries. But she deems that expulsion is not needed here. Instead, deems a year-long detention is more appropriate since they'll be in her care and not their parents' care.
Yeah, under her close eye and thumb.
Yeah, and she looks at Harry while saying that line. Also, no Hogsmeade ever again.
And no Christmas. And
Christmas has officially been canceled. That's how powerful McGonagall is. She's canceled Christmas. So it's an interesting punishment. I think the biting line is, you're better under my care than clearly your parents' care.
Yeah, well, because clearly they were able to get away with this in the first place.
Yeah. Hermione bursts in at this moment, asking what she has missed, and McGonagall calls her out immediately for, I'm sorry, do people not knock anymore? You just burst into my office. I'm the headmistress of Hogwarts. You can't just bust into my office.
I love how she's like, if I could give you a detention right now, I would, because while you're an adult, you were stupid.
She scolds her also for keeping a time turner. She rips Hermione. Like, what are you doing?
She should be smarter than that.
Hermione begins to mount a defense because she's like, well, Minerva, Professor McGonagall. Like, I think I was... And McGonagall cuts her off by saying, your children didn't exist.
Yeah, that was the best line you could have said.
And Hermione has no response.
Because there is no response.
McGonagall then composes herself because she's starting to fly off the handle a little bit and really dig deep at both the students and the adults in the room. And she composes herself a little bit and says to the students, your intentions were honorable, if misguided. You were both brave. But the lesson your father failed to heed is that bravery does not forgive stupidity. Always think what is possible. And then she continues on, and she includes the adults in this part of her speech. You're all so young. You have no idea how dark the Wizarding Wars got. You were reckless with the world that friends of mine and yours sacrificed to create and maintain.
I think there's another part which I found important was that she was beating herself up for all this happening under her watch. And she said how Dumbledore's sacrifice essentially was almost undone. And I think that's key to understanding her anger here, because it's like, yes, everything that we went through, all the sacrifices our friends made, watching Dumbledore sacrifice himself for the greater good in this case, you almost undid all of that. And it was all under my watch, and she's beating herself up for it, even though I don't think it's her fault in any way, shape, or form. But knowing that it happened, and like she said, Voldemort came into power again, like, you are so young and reckless because you were not alive during this time, and she was for both Wizarding Worlds, and she knows how dark the world could have got. So for her, like, yeah, this is deeply personal. I did like the comment about bravery doesn't forgive stupidity, which I think is, one, an interesting comment on a Gryffindor trait in the first place, but then also interesting coming from McGonagall, given that she was the head of the Gryffindor house. And I wonder how often she's had to have this conversation with people, especially Gryffindors, that like, yeah, just because you did something brave doesn't mean it was the right thing to do. It was a stupid thing to do, and it backfired.
Well, that's the Ravenclaw coming out in her a little bit, because if we remember, I think
she was a house doll.
The hat, similar to Hermione, really struggled where to place McGonagall, and it ended up in a Gryffindor, obviously, but Ravenclaw was the other option. And I do also like that bravery does not forgive stupidity, because we, obviously, if you've been following us from the beginning of this podcast, know that we have railed on Harry repeatedly for doing some pretty dumb things throughout his time at Hogwarts. And that was essentially our argument, was like, yeah, it might be brave what you're doing, but my goodness, there are other options that you have in front of you. Like, stop for a second.
Yeah.
But I do like the line even more of, always think what is possible. Before you just rush into something, think like, hey, what's the worst case scenario here? Hey, what's the best case scenario? Will it be the best case scenario? Will it be the worst case scenario? Probably not, but you could be somewhere on that spectrum. And are you okay with those results? Which,
of course, is hard given a time turner, because how can you know the ripples of time?
Well,
what has affected, which is why even more why you shouldn't mess with the time turner.
If you think about what the best and worst case scenario is, and you can't even technically fathom it because it's so many unknown variables.
Yeah.
That in itself should probably tell you what the answer is.
Yeah.
I love that line from McGonagall. And as far as the second bit goes with, you're all so young, that's not just pointed at the kids.
No, it's all of them.
It's pointed at the adults, too, who are in their 30s, 40s at this point in time. You're all so young. And even though the adults, Harry, Hermione, and Draco, were very much a part of the Second Wizarding War, they were still shielded a lot from it. They were shielded from the Second Wizarding War because they were not out there. They were not the Order of the Phoenix that was out on those front lines.
That and the Second Wizarding War, they were more prepared because they knew, like, Voldemort had returned and they had learned from the First Wizarding War. So in a sense, they had a leg up and things were better than it was the first time.
But this is why the Molly Weasleys of the world were so protective of the kids.
Yeah.
Because she lost 2 brothers during the First Wizarding War. Like, they never grasped how dark the first one was, ever, even though Harry lost 2 parents in it. Even though Neville's 2 parents were permanently harmed in that Wizarding War. It was hard. And I like McGonagall taking a second to reflect on all of the people, my friends, and friends of yours, who sacrificed. Sirius, and Lupin, and Tonks. And honestly, Teddy even sacrificed because he lost his parents too.
Right.
Like, all of these people have suffered in some way for this, what we have right now. Like, what are we actually doing?
To be fair to the youth in this situation.
Which youth are you talking about? The adults or the 2 kids?
Honestly, probably both. I mean, specifically, yeah, the 2 kids, but they all kind of fall into this category. I think in the world, when you have lived through the suffering, it's easier for you to remember how hard it was versus the people who have lived after it's been fixed. Like, specifically coming to mind right now would be like living during a war or living during a really serious disease. If you have grown up in the time where the war is just in the history books and the disease, there's vaccines and cures for it, you don't necessarily think of it as being as harmful as it is or as destructive as it was. And I think it's easier to slip back into the thinking of, oh, it wasn't all that bad. They're just kind of like, they're playing it up to be worse than it was. And it's not until history comes full circle again, because history always repeats itself, that then they experience it firsthand. They're like, oh, no, they weren't kidding. This is bad. This is really, really bad. But when you're in that in-between stage, it's easier to think like, no, we can handle it.
As big and as tough and as formidable as Hagrid was, he wouldn't utter Voldy's name.
Right.
Like, I don't even forget me uttering the name. I don't want you uttering the name in my presence.
Right.
Like, that's the fear that was cultivated. I cannot express how much I love this scene for McGonagall and how much just depth and emotion it gives. And the line of you have no idea how dark the Wizarding Wars got.
I think it hits even harder for the audience who were fans of the series and have read it tons and tons of times. I think if you were just somebody who was a casual viewer of the play, it hits, but it definitely drives home deep if you have grown up with the whole series.
Actually, this might be. I'm going to go out on a limb.
The best scene of the play?
Might be one of my favorite scenes of the play. It might be. It might be up there. I love McGonagall getting this moment and just reality checking everyone.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it does give the audience a little bit of a voice of like, why are you so stupid?
It does. No, I mean, she does speak for the audience of like, you 2 kids are so dumb. And as much as we did get on Harry for making some particularly dumb decisions, none of his decisions, not one of them, even came close
No.
to what Albus and Scorpius got into. It's really Albus's idea.
Yeah.
Scorpius just got dragged along.
Literally.
No decision Harry ever made was as dumb as the one that Albus did.
Yeah.
So, with that, we will pause here and take a little break, and then we will be back with a couple of more scenes. A little less heavy, but still some interesting things going on. So we will pause right here, take a break, and we will be back shortly. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlap.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
I love magic.
All right, so we are back with Act 3, Scene 11. We are at Hogwarts in the Slytherin dormitory. Not often we get an insight into these Slytherin dwellings.
Not often do we see parents visiting their kids in their dwellings either.
Not often, no. I think the closest we got during Harry's time at Hogwarts was Sirius coming in and almost killing Ron. I guess, to be fair, he did pop in the fireplace a couple of times.
Yeah, but we didn't really see Lucius come strolling out of the Slytherin dungeons and be like,
He visited Hogwarts quite often, but yeah, I don't think he wanted to be anywhere near Crabbe and Goyle, personally. I think that was it.
I was going to say maybe yell at them to clean their rooms, but I think the house elves just take care of that for them.
But to both of our points, it's even more rare when Harry Potter walks into the Slytherin dormitory.
With his identity being Harry Potter.
Even more rare. This is a very rare circumstance. Harry enters Albus's room, and Harry says that they haven't found the time turner yet, because remember, that is still actually missing.
I like he said how they had to negotiate with the mer people to dredge the lake. That was a thought that I was like, I didn't even think about that. Property lost while swimming in the lake would belong to the mer people.
Or at the very least, if you're going to mess with their actual home and habitat by something as aggressive as dredging, because dredging the lake is not a simple process, I would imagine you would have to then consult the people living there. Like, hey, we're going to kind of mess with your whole vibe here for like, I don't know, a couple hours, a couple days. You cool with that? At least they thought about it. I don't know if that's McGonagall doing the negotiations. I don't know if that's Hermione. I don't know if that's both of them. I don't know if they have some special liaison to the mer people. I don't know who's doing those negotiations. Maybe all of the above.
Yeah.
But yes, interesting nonetheless. I could see back in the day Dumbledore just going up and speaking Mermish to them because he could, because he's Dumbledore.
Right. But it looks like an hourglass. See if you can find it.
Hey, help me out, you know? Harry then compliments Albus's room, and Albus says, well, green is soothing. Gryffindor's rooms are kind of nice, but red can send you a bit mad, they say. Not to cast aspersions on you or anything, but that's what they say. And playing Hogwarts Legacy, I haven't seen either common room yet, because I've yet to play as a Slytherin and as a Gryffindor. Still holding out to see if I could live stream this somehow. But I will tell you what, that Ravenclaw common room is gorgeous.
So calming.
It is beautiful.
I get thinking green is calming, but blue, it's the perfect color.
And it's so open and airy, and it's just gorgeous. It is a place that you would be okay just sitting in and reading a book. It's beautiful. So anyway, Harry says, okay, look, enough with the formalities. Can you explain to me why you tried this? And Albus says, I thought I could change things. It's unfair. And Harry's like, I'm sorry, you think it's unfair that Cedric died? I was there. I witnessed it. Yes, it's terribly unfair. How do you think I feel about it? Being there, come on.
His anger definitely gets the better of him. He says, if you were trying to be like me, you went about this the wrong way. I never volunteered for adventure. I got forced into it, which there were a few times he kind of volunteered for adventure.
It's both. Because, for example, this whole thing, the Triwizard Tournament, no, he didn't ask to be part of that. He was quite literally magically bound to participate in that.
I was thinking more Department of Mysteries going after Sirius. That would kind of be more searching for the adventure, but I could also see his argument of being like, my hands were tied because I truly did believe Sirius was in danger.
Sure. I mean, you can quibble on some things, and we just came up with two opposite examples that I think illustrate that. Like, he didn't have a choice with the Triwizard Tournament, but yeah, he did have a choice with
Or like Sorcerer's Stone. Did you really have to go after it? But at the same time, glad you did.
I think what his point is, I think what Harry's point is here is, as an 11-year-old child who knew nothing of Voldy, knew nothing of his parents' true deaths, he was completely blissfully ignorant of his importance in the wizarding world. So him, from year 1 to year 11, truly did not ask for this.
Yeah.
All he wanted to do was be a normal kid.
Yeah.
And when he got to Hogwarts, he learned very quickly that, I'm sorry, that's not what you get to be. And you have to do X, Y, and Z. And as we know, Dumbledore was like, oh yeah, I know this kid's going to have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm just not going to tell him for the next 4.5 years. Like, we'll wait until year 5 when I finally like, yeah, you're kind of in it. So, like, that's what Harry, I think, is getting at. He's like, I lived my life just wanting to be a normal kid. Then I got thrust into this world, and I got a lot on my shoulders early.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's getting at.
And I know Albus cries as a result. He obviously
Sheds a tear.
He is obviously feeling bad for this, but I do think it hits harder for the audience than it does for Albus, because if you're a fan of the books, you know to a T everything that Harry went through. And while I think Albus is aware of the generalized story of Harry Potter, since he has lived his life in Harry's shadow, I don't think Albus necessarily knows the true extent of the details of what Harry went through. And I think right now he knows, like, okay, I did something I shouldn't have done. It was bad. That was my bad and stuff. But I think this moment would actually hit harder for Scorpius, because he saw what the world came to under Voldemort's control. Albus didn't even have the chance to see it because he ceased to exist.
That's true, but it's clear that Scorpius has informed Albus of what they did.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally get it. Albus does shed a tear. At this, Harry does pull back, because he was starting to ramp up the anger again. Mm-hmm. And he's pulling back a little bit. He recognizes that, okay, he's pushing a little bit too hard. Let's have a discussion.
I think his next parenting move is really well done. He admits he was wrong.
Yeah, Harry says, I was wrong to think that Scorpius was Voldy's son, and that the black cloud surrounding you meant Scorpius. Mm-hmm. I was wrong. Mm-hmm. That was my fault. He also continues with saying, look, I've locked away the map. The Marauders map is locked away. You are never going to see that thing again. Mm-hmm. Like, don't worry about it. And he continues on with saying, your mom left your room exactly how you left it. She wouldn't let anybody in it. Not even me. I couldn't even go in the room.
Yeah, because they were both so scared after he ran away.
He said, you really, really scared her. And me. And Albus responds with, I thought Harry Potter wasn't afraid of anything. And Harry doesn't reject that thought. He doesn't confirm that thought. He says, is that how I make you feel? Mm-hmm. Which is an interesting line from Harry. It's a very reflective, very therapeutic line. Mm-hmm. It's not like confirming or rejecting his thought. It's like, is that how I make you feel? Mm-hmm. Albus says, when I was in Gryffindor, things weren't great between us either. So it's clearly not just that I'm in Slytherin that's the problem. And Harry says, no, you're right. It's not just about that. This is a great conversation, I think, right here. Harry says, are you okay? And Albus says, no. And Harry responds with, no, nor me.
I like the end of the conversation, because I do like them both acknowledging we're not okay, which is a good first start. And it shows, like, we don't have to solve it now. Like, we can just acknowledge the problem in the first place. I, though, didn't love the line, no, I know it's not just about that. And I felt like it was odd wording, because I felt like it implied that Harry thinks Albus being in Slytherin was part of the problem. But in reality, I don't think Harry thinks the difference of houses is a problem at all. I get he's just repeating Albus's words back to him.
I think that's the intent.
But I feel like, in a way, it would benefit from being phrased a little differently, because I think repeating his words right back to him reinforces the idea that, yes, you being in Slytherin is part of the problem here, but I don't think it is.
I would agree. I agree that I don't think Harry actually does have a problem with him being in Slytherin, because I think it was a very genuine moment in the epilogue where he's like, then Slytherin will get the best student ever, or whatever he said.
And I get, like, repeating his words back to him is a way to show, like, I hear you, I acknowledge what you have said, I understand.
I think he's agreeing with Albus, where it's like, hey, when I was in Gryffindor, things weren't great either, so it's definitely not just a Slytherin thing.
Yeah. I think just if I were in Albus's shoes and I heard that, I'd be like, oh, so he did think it was a problem. And that I don't think that's the case.
No, I don't know about that. I agree that there should probably be a better follow-up here. Mm-hmm. I do like the, are you okay? Mm-hmm. I love Harry asking that. And I love Harry and Albus being in a vulnerable enough place where they could both answer honestly.
Agreed.
And both ask the question, like, are you okay? Mm-hmm. And I think being in a place where they can both recognize we've misstepped. Mm-hmm. I'm wrong. You're wrong. Okay. All right. Now where can we get to a better place?
Yeah.
And you have to have that self-recognition of, I've been wrong. How can we make this right? Mm-hmm. And I think they've both gotten there. And I want to open this up at this point to any parents that we have listening. And I know we have quite a few, just from comments that we've had throughout, not just Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but as we've had
the whole series, yeah.
Through the whole series. And I want to open it up to parents that are listening. And I want to ask, have you had these kind of conversations with your kid? Obviously, you don't have to get into details. But, like, have you had these moments where you recognize either your child is going through something or you as a parent are going through something and something's not right and you just have to have that, like, hey, what's going on? Are you okay?
I would agree. I would find that interesting because I feel like, at least from teacher perspective, when I ask the kids about, like, when you go home, do your parents ask, how was school today? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so do you respond? They're like, no. We're just like, it was fine. We didn't do anything. It was boring, whatever. And that seems to be the majority, but there are the handful who are like, oh, no, I tell my parents, like, everything that happened. I'm like, that's interesting that there's such a spectrum of the relationships between teenagers and their parents. So I'd really be curious how many can have such vulnerable, honest conversations with them. I think it's important. I think it's
a really interesting conversation that Harry and Albus have. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting scene. And I would just like to get... I want everybody's thoughts on it, but I'd be particularly interested in the parents that have maybe had a similar conversation.
And do you have to go through something traumatic or, like, upsetting in order to tear down the wall and have that conversation? Or are you able to have it before something bad happens? Like what's the process of bridging that gap between the teenage angst and mentality versus, like, oh, I'm your parent, I tell you what to do?
It's a tough spot, I think, for Harry, too, if we're diving back into the Wizarding World side of things, because I think it's hard just in general to open up when you are supposed to be the strong one. Mm-hmm. In this context, Ginny has been generally the supportive one, and Harry's tended to be more of the strong one holding down the fort.
Good cop, bad cop?
Kinda, yeah, kinda. And he's also looked to be the strong one because he's head of the magical law enforcement in the government. Mm-hmm. Everybody's looking to him to literally be the strong one in the room.
And then you give him the titles of the chosen one and the one who lived.
And his laundry list of accomplishments. Uh-huh. And you literally took down the Dark Lord. Like, you are literally looked as the strong one, so you can't have any vulnerability. You can't have any kind of marks in the armor. And I think that's what Albus is alluding to, of, like, I thought Harry Potter wasn't afraid of anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is that what you think? Mm-hmm. Because clearly I can be. And I think there's a long documented history of Harry being very afraid.
Yeah.
Like you just mentioned, you brought up the Sirius thing at the Ministry of...
Oh, he was terrified
Magic.
for that.
He was terrified for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have, especially from Harry's point of view. But anyway, we will move on to Act 3, Scene 12, and it's a dream.
Which is a sequence we never saw when we saw the play, because we saw the shortened version. All of the dream sequences were removed for those shortened versions.
Correct. The dream takes place in Godric's Hollow, in the graveyard of Godric's Hollow, which we've seen before. However, this scene features a young Harry Potter with Petunia.
So a scene that definitely never happened.
Correct. Correct. Petunia tells a young Harry to lay down his ugly little flowers and let's get out of here. I hate this village.
She calls it a hive of filth.
Yep. She uses some quite elaborate language to describe what's going on. Harry asks Petunia if they're their last living relatives. And
She confirms it.
Petunia's like, yep, we're it. And Harry asks, they weren't very popular? They didn't have friends? And Petunia's like, well, Lily tried. It wasn't really her fault. She just kind of repelled people by her very nature, her intensity. Your father was just super obnoxious. So no neither of them had friends. And Harry goes, well, if they didn't have so many friends, why are there so many flowers here?
I love this sequence of questioning because it kind of reminds me of like a courtroom, like a lawyer asking the questions to set exactly the answer that they want. It's like, yeah, the logic here doesn't exist. If you're saying they have no friends for the last living relatives, the amount of flowers on these graves contradict everything you're telling me. Well, caught in a lie.
Well, Petunia has an answer. Petunia sees the flowers as if for the first time, approaches the flowers, and she fights emotions until eventually succumbing to those emotions. Then she says, well, clearly they either blew over from another grave or someone is playing a trick on us.
Yeah, like they stole a bunch of flowers from every other grave and just dumped them here.
This is clearly also a little bit of dream logic, too.
Yeah.
Because things are coming into focus and coming in as Harry's, like, mentioning them. And then Petunia's almost, like, adjusting to the new scene that has formed.
Yeah.
With, like, I don't believe there were always flowers there. Harry mentions it. Now there's no flowers.
There's flowers. And, they're all happen to be marked with Lily and James's names and messages directed at them.
Yeah, they're like, well, these are pretty specifically towards James and Lily if they just blew over from someone else's. But then the scene changes again. And Voldy appears.
First his voice, though. He says, I smell guilt. There's a stench of guilt upon the air.
Do you still see with my eyes, Harry Potter? As the form of Voldy begins to take shape over his parents' gravestones.
Yeah, it's like his hand was rising from behind it, and then his whole figure, but you couldn't see his face. And I like Petunia being like, this place is dangerous. We need to leave. Like, yeah, no kidding.
It's also described as a horrific figure, specifically. But then it gets even more dreamlike and more crazy because Albus bursts from within Voldy's robes, says, Dad, Dad. Then there are a bunch of words spoken in parcel tongue, and we hear Voldy's voice say, Harry Potter.
Not a happy dream.
Nope. So yeah, that's a very upsetting dream for Harry.
Especially given everything that just happened, that he just went through with Albus. Like, you would think I'm over this whole black shadow, whatnot. Having Albus come out from the cloak that Voldemort is in is a little upsetting to see.
So it quickly transitions into Act 3, Scene 13, Harry and Ginny Potter's house in the kitchen. Harry is clearly in a bad place, still dwelling on his recent dreams. Ginny comes in and says that Harry was screaming. She tries to calm him, but begins to say that he is actually scaring her. Harry says that Voldy is still here, and Albus. Ginny's like, I'm sorry, what? Voldy and Albus? Is Albus in danger? And Harry's like, I think we all are.
I said he thought Voldemort was talking directly to him when mentioning that comment about smelling guilt. Which is interesting, because I don't know what guilt Harry is supposedly having right now for Voldemort to be smelling from beyond the grave.
I think there's a lot of guilt built up in Harry from a lot of different things. I think he's still guilty about his parents. I think he's still guilty about Sirius. I think he's still guilty about Lupin and Tonks. I think he's still guilty about...
But I think
he's guilty about a lot. He's carrying a lot.
I don't know if that's guilt. Guilt implies that he's at fault for it, and I don't think that Harry is at fault for his parents' death.
That's what Voldy's always tried to pin on Harry, was it's your fault. All of these people are dying for you. Dumbledore is another one. All these people have laid down their lives to save you.
Yeah, but I would feel like at this point in his life, he would have accepted that, because he accepted it about Cedric. He was like, yes, it was horrific, and it was bad, and I wish it hadn't happened, but
sure,
I have accepted that it happened and clearly needed to happen.
Hey, I'd say from the hours of 1 till 8 p.m., sure. Harry's like, I'm cool. This is a dream. So in dreams, that subconscious lets a rip. And it's also part of the reason that a lot of people get anxieties at night, is when you start to drift off to sleep and it's just you and your brain. And then your brain brings up some messed up stuff that happened years ago, decades ago, which is what's happening here. You know, maybe Harry outwardly has accepted, like, hey, that stuff, not my fault. I just did the best that I could with what I had at the time. But somewhere in there, somewhere deep in his subconscious, he probably still does feel a lot of the weight and guilt of...
I could see Voldemort trying to guilt trip him, sure. But I think it's more, I regret that my parents had died for me. I regret that Sirius felt that he had to come to protect me. I regret that Lupin and Tonks both died. I regret that so many lives were hurt by my existence. I don't think it's guilt. I don't know.
I think it's interesting in this scene that we get a Harry and Ginny moment after Harry has just had this nightmare, dream, night terror, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And I happen to think of Ron in this, because Ron is usually the one that dealt with this stuff.
Yeah.
Ron was usually the one there while Harry had all of these visions and nightmares and look into Voldy's mind all those years in that dormitory. Hermione got a little taste of it when they were out in
the
camping scenes or after they left the wedding in Book 7. So she would have a little taste of it. But Ginny really hadn't been there for all of that. She's not attuned to all of it. When she started to sleep in the same room, the same home as Harry...
And if we're assuming Harry's nightmares regarding Voldemort have only happened within this year, yeah, this is all brand new to her.
Well, the last words we get from the 7th book is, all was well.
Right.
So we could presume that since Ginny has started living with Harry...
All has been
well. So this might be her first actual experience with Harry having these types of dreams and visions.
Which is why I think she's like, oh, well, maybe it's just stress, and you got to give yourself a little time before they go away. Whereas I think you're right, like, Ron would have been like, oh, tell me what you saw. Oh, that's not good. We need to tell Hermione and, like, talk about it.
I think after this encounter, I think Ginny does need to send an owl over to at least Ron, if not Ron and Hermione specific. I know they're living together, but...
How did you deal with Harry after bad dreams?
Like, what is this? Like,
yeah.
I mean, we're making a joke out of it. It's a real serious thing.
No, it is. Especially since Albus is still in danger.
Yeah, I mean, it would be something to consult them on and be like, hey, what does this mean? What's your experiences with this? Help me understand, because she loves Harry. She wants to be there for him. Mm-hmm. She tries to calm him. But him in this state, after hearing him scream in his sleep, must be terrifying for her. So, I mean, it is something to reach out to her brother and sister-in-law and be like, hey, I know you have experience with this. Can you help me help him? Mm-hmm. And I think that's an interesting spot for Ginny to be in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we will wrap it up here for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Act 3, Scenes 10 through 13. Thank you for hanging with us. Let us know what you think about all of these scenes. Let us know what you think about McGonagall kind of scolding the adults as well as the children. Let us know what you think about Harry and Albus's conversation in the Slytherin dormitory. And let us know what you think about Ginny reacting to Harry's dream, nightmare, whatever you want to call it. Let us know what you think. And you can do so by commenting on our socials, like we said in part 1. Let us know by commenting on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. At Hogwarts a Pod is where you can find us. Otherwise, you can leave a comment on Spotify, participate in that poll on Spotify. We will be back soon with another episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.